Okay.
All right. Good point.
Sounds good. All right.
Good evening. My name is Taylor Hodge. So I'm here to talk to you this evening about Erie 21, who we are, what we do, and then also really more so as we dive into Lot 4. But first, so again, my name is Taylor Hodge, I'm the Assistant Director for Erie 21 and the Lot 4 Program Manager. This is my fifth week on the job. So I'm a newer team member. But I'm really excited to be here this evening and would love to, before I dive in, would love to do just a quick round robin of your name and then also what you're most excited about. Start up front.
Hi, I'm Brandon. I'm most excited about, I'll say, learning some of these computer languages.
Okay. Just go right through here and keep going.
I'm Jennifer, and I'm excited because it's going to be awesome when I get to see some of my ideas actually come to life in some way that they can be used. It's going to be really cool.
For the state.
My name is Tika Valdez. I don't know what I'm really excited about. It's a lot. I did enjoy hearing the response yesterday. It was never boring, so I think I was excited about that.
My name is Sayyid Wali. One thing I'm definitely excited about is maybe building stuff with tech, whether it's websites or full application.
Hi, my name is Exoma Mary. I'm excited about at the end actually completing this program and see if I can do it, because that will prove to myself that I don't possibly have the imposter syndrome. So
My name is Aldeas and I am excited to learn a lot of new things. My name is Dana. It's a long you'll be busy.
Patrick,
I'm Jordan. I'm excited to be able to, like she said, bring my ideas to life and do what I like.
My name's Schneider, and I'm assigned for the same reasons to read my list.
Yolanda, kind of want to have the more in person like talking before I do that a little bit, so a little bit on that knowledge and that knowledge in person. So,
So nice to be back in person.
My name is Art Shrell, and I'm excited about learning more about the programs I use in our regular basis.
I'm just excited about learning skill.
I'm Asia, and I'm just excited for new challenges. I'm excited to build on.
My name is Brian. I'm excited just to learn in a different environment. I've done a lot of independent learning stuff and just already see what the collaboration is actually hearing other people's ideas stuff that just makes it that much more. Just looking forward to the process.
Torres, decided to learn about coding, been interested in work in for quite a while. And when we get started on it, we worry about
Great. And Chancey, if you just want to share maybe what your favorite part of being a part of this program was.
So I'm Shantina. I'm a graduate of cohort 3. Actually, did this week, so I apologize for missing out on you guys yesterday. As far as you all go, I'm excited about seeing your first week, and I'm actually going to be your last week as well. So that will be so dope to see you guys at the beginning and the end of your journeys, and you will all be here. We'll all be here at the end. As for myself, the best part was when you learn something and then you apply it, and then you learn all the singular things, and then you put them all together and you have to finish project at the end. And you know, like you understand it and you see it come to life. And you had your ups and downs and your bad days, and you're gonna have really good days as well. Like it will all. That was my first part.
Thank you for sharing that. I love hearing that because when I think about, and just again, my 5th week into the job, I've just seen just the amount of support behind this team and just the amount of collaboration amongst just the cohorts across the various programs within Lock 4. And not only that, but I can just feel your energy, right, when you're telling me about what you're excited about. So spot on, Janatina, they will all be here, you know, in 24 weeks. And I'm, you know, my second week here was really neat because I got to see, I'll say, the end product, right? So that website, and I was just blown away. So with that, I'm here to give an overview of Erie 21 and again, a deep dive of Lock 4. So Erie 21 stands for Educating Our Rising Innovation Economy. So in essence, we're a grant funded program. We were developed by Lemoyne College in collaboration with the city school district. And then we also work and partner with dozens of local industry partners. We also were actually born out of the mayor's Syracuse Surge initiative as well, for Syracuse to become a technology hub and really put Syracuse on the map for that. So we have two main objectives: to reduce poverty in the region through access and opportunity, and develop a pathway of skilled employees into the local workforce. So an overview. So Erie 21, so it's modeled off based off the Erie Canal. So that's where the locks come into play. So Lock 1 it serves middle school students, grades 6 to 8. So that's actually where it all began. That was the first lock that launched through a quantitative thinking village that still goes on every summer to date. So again, grades 6 to 8. Lock 2 is high school students, so grades 9 through 12. We serve them through various camp opportunities throughout the, I'll say those are held over the summer. So we have a Gen Cyber Technology Camp in the summer, also an Innovation Academy that takes place over 2 weeks. But also we have team members that are working in the school with students on a regular basis to help them with college applications or introducing them to career pathways. So really exploration, both college and career. And then as well as Lock 3, we have Lemoyne College undergraduates who are a part of the Erie 21 program and have access to the Erie 21 house and resources through us. They have to be enrolled in a certain program, but they're also, there's certain benchmarks. So again, that career support, the student success coaching, advising, mentorship, access to career events. And then also our Lock 4, which actually launched last spring for the certificate programs, but Lock 4 is for non-traditional, so adult learners. And with that, we just finished crafting our collective Lock 4 vision statement. So I have it up here, but it's to diversify the tech industry by providing in-demand technology training, facilitating career pathways for underrepresented individuals, empowering employers to build a stronger workforce, and fostering an inclusive and equitable tech community. So we're, like I said, just incredible support system. And I think this is just such a high impact partnership between Center State CEO, Lemoyne College, and of course, Hack Up State. So, we're all coming together. We all have, some different programs going on, but it all falls under the Lock 4 Erie 21 umbrella. So pathways. So of course, careers in code, which you're all here. Also the 24-week-long coding boot camp. Also the Surge Coding Apprenticeship, which I believe you'll be hearing from Liza tomorrow. Yeah. So, but quick high level, and she'll speak to it way better. So it's a 12-month program with a month-long pre-apprenticeship. You'd be matched with an employer for full-time paid work experience. And then there's also a pre-apprenticeship work that's done alongside industry experts, and also our Lemoyne College faculty here take part in that as well. And then what I'm really here to speak to tonight are the Lemoyne College certificate programs. So again, these are just options, potentially maybe when you finish careers in code, if you're looking to, continue with your education or other opportunities. These are opportunities that are available to you and that you would be ready for. So the certificate programs, we offer 2, so you would choose one. We have a 17-month-long program, and it's also with a work-based learning experience, which would consist of a paid internship, paid full-time work experience, or apprenticeship-like opportunity. And these are both 2 credit bearing. I should have reworded that a bit, but so you come away, depending on the program, it's 15 or 16 credit hours that you're coming away with. And then
You would choose between the two options again. So we offer one in cybersecurity fundamentals and the other is in computer programming. And again, those are 17 months in length. So the first one to kind of dive in, cybersecurity. So if you like identifying risks, if you're, I think too, I'm just thinking back to what we saw the other week, Uber was hacked, right? So I think it's, in the world we're in, we're constantly reading or, hearing about cyber attacks. So again, this is just a really growing in demand occupation. But you'll see here another part of the cybersecurity fundamentals certificate. You would learn how to develop and implement appropriate safeguards, also formulate and implement an appropriate response when a cybersecurity breach occurs. And we are currently recruiting for our next cohort. Again, you all will be here in careers in code. However, the best way to get the word out about these programs is really through our network, which is all of you, and it's really just sharing. And maybe you have a family member or a friend or someone that might be interested in this. Definitely just share, spread the word, and they can reach out to me for more information. But we begin our next cohort January 18th is when classes kick off. So for computer programming, this is the other certificate option. You would learn program development, design techniques, and software testing strategies, gain an understanding of at least 2 programming languages. I want to say they end up working with 5, but the main 2 are Python and Java. Also developing communication, interpersonal, and team building skills. And again, classes are held Monday and Wednesday evenings. They take place here at Lemoyne College from 5:30 to 8 o'clock. We do, it's dependent if you have transportation or not, we can secure free bus passes as well to get you here to class. So program eligibility, we do offer full financial aid. And in fact, we're able to send for this next cohort, we'll be sending 22 students. We're able to fully pay for 22 students to go through the certificate programs, which we're really excited about. And again, that's for individuals who are living in central New York, demonstrate financial needs. So we have that up on the slide, but it's very much, if someone wasn't represented here, we can talk about it. And then also just the willingness to take steps toward a career change. So a lot of the individuals who come into our program, they're really starting at the same level. And I think it's been really special to come in the point, like I said, I'm new just a few weeks ago, but to come in and get to know the students. So they'll be the first cohort's graduating in December, but to really see that community. And I'm already excited for all of you because, that's very much going to happen here. And you hold each other accountable and cheer each other on and lift each other up. And it's really special kind of inserting where I am and seeing those bonds that have been built. And I know that'll carry on, into their careers and next steps. So our admission process, really straightforward. And actually in your folders that I gave you, there's a QR code that could be scanned. But on the slide here, it's just a link. So it's a quick application, so basic general information. We do ask for a resume upload. We have a 15-minute phone screening. And then also following the phone screening, if you were still interested, so really that 15-minute phone screening would be with me and just talking about, again, kind of the program, answering any questions you may have, making sure that, it is something you're still interested in moving on to the next step. Then it would be followed by a 30-minute Zoom interview with myself. And I should really call it more so a meeting, more so myself, faculty and members from the center state team, just to really get a sense, make sure that, we have you going into the right, whether it's cybersecurity or computer programming, and really get a sense of, what your goals are coming into the program. And we do for this year, right now we have priority given to applications received by Friday, November 4th, but of course earlier is better. Just because, like I said, we're able to pay for 22 individuals, so those really will be first come, first serve. Sorry, any questions so far? Yeah.
Yes, you said the next cohort would be during 18th. Yes, so that does that conflicts with this cohort. So when is the cohort after that?
Yeah, so the next one after that, that's actually something we're putting kind of around, but we would be fall, so next
right? We'd be looking at,
Next year, this time around.
yeah, we'd be looking at, I want to say, well, it's actually 17 months. So that's something we're actually talking about right now, but yeah, we would actually be looking at, fall of, 2024. So there is a bit, but if it is something you're interested in, there are ways for us to stay connected between now and then too. There will be other network opportunities, to stay involved with us or through other programming within Lock 4. Again, that's right now. We might reevaluate that, but we are sending one cohort through at a time. Okay, we're going to save that numbers.
We could also discuss internally with Lock 4, the Surge Apprenticeship program was getting off the ground. And we worked with Liza, who you'll hear from tomorrow, kind of all part of this Lock 4 team to make sure that our students could still graduate from the program and participate in the apprenticeship. It would be very, very intense to do both the certificate program and this program, just because our program is so intense itself. But if you are top of the class, we could potentially make an exception and have you participate in both. But that's something that we would have to discuss internally. That's not something that I can like offer you guys as an option right now.
Snaps. Any other questions while I'm here on the application process?
Yeah, I actually put in an application before, to put in an application for this. I was working with Amanda for a while, but I guess the links weren't working to pick the one that I wanted, so it never allowed me to do the application's there. Okay. It's just not submitted because the links weren't working too much to get things to finalize it and submit the application.
So Amanda was aware though that
Yeah,
that happened.
she said she was gonna be working on it and getting in touch with me. I just never heard from her for that.
Okay.
But she knew I did go through the apprenticeship thing also. And then I was gonna be starting this one, and she was in touch with Lifestyle and all of that, so she might have known that I was.
That you were, yeah, linked up here, yeah. No, we'll definitely, I'll make sure to just follow up on that too, but yeah, I think it's something we're looking at too, right? Internally, but we'll have other ways of staying connected and making sure that if this is something of interest down the road, that, that you're able to regroup with us and go down that road, should that be what you're interested in. So really, what are you investing in this program? It's probably not all that different than here, right? So really, a required orientation in January. So we hold that 1 week in advance of classes beginning. Also attending classes Mondays and Wednesdays beginning at 5:30. Again, those are all in person. Attending required meetings with your success coach, which I'm the success coach for the program, and also advisors. So we have an academic advisor. We also have career services. So various benchmark points that we would want to make sure that, again, that you're taking advantage of all of these support systems available to you. And then also your commitment, right? Not only to yourself, but to your classmates, to the program, and then also to the employer you're connected with, because again, this program, you will end up syncing up with an employer for a full-time work-based learning experience, again, internship, apprenticeship, full-time job opportunity. And what do you receive? So we are excited because for our next cohort, we will be able to offer monthly stipends for the first 12 months. We again, access to a paid work experience that final semester. And then again, the Lemoyne resources that are available to you. So in these certificate programs, you're a Lemoyne College student, so you have access to career services. And the thing I always like to remind people about career services too is that most colleges and universities, if you're linked up with career services, that's something you have lifetime access to. So it's just really important to take advantage of. But the library, the gym, the chapel, name it. Again, you're a Lemoyne College student, tutoring services, also employer connections. I think that's really one of the strongest points of this partnership too, right? Is that we have Center State CEO at the table. So we're able to all work closely, and all of us come, right? A lot of us come from industry and have employer connections ourselves. So I think that really makes this partnership incredibly strong. And then also your cohort of peers, right? Again, going back to earlier, it's like you all are going to really form that bond and help each other through this program. And that's the same thing for the certificates. And then also the access to Erie 21 support services. So again, I mentioned earlier, the success coach piece, we do have a laptop loaner program. So the other thing too, I wanted to mention while I'm here, because I know I'm talking a lot about certificate program, that would be something, if any of you were interested, would be a little further off, but again, please share with anyone, who you think might be interested. But this is really important, and this isn't just related to the certificate programs. This is something, again, I'll say we're still building the boat as we go down the river, but it's exciting because there's really no like playbook of like, it has to be done this way. If we're like, you know what, we want to hold this type of event, well, let's all come to the table and figure out how we hold this event to support all of you. So we have a dedicated support network on this collective Erie 21 Block 14. Also access to career-related late in the day, career-related programming. So earlier when Shantina and I were chatting briefly, we're in the midst of planning an employer meet and greet event for mid-November. And that's something that we'll have students from the cohort 3 that just graduated go through, as well as our cohort 1 certificate program. So again, that access to that type of an event, industry visits, networking events, as well as guest speakers from industry. We'll hold resume, interview workshops, elevator pitch practice, Lemoyne College career fairs. We have 2 of those a year. We actually just had a record turnout for last week. We had students, or I should say candidates from careers and code there, as well as certificate program, but over 400 candidates in attendance and close to 90 employers. So again, you'll have access to that. And then we have an Erie 21 career closet. So we are located over in the alumni house. And so we're right on Springfield. Is that Springfield? Yeah. So we have a career closet though that you'd have access to. So when you get to that point of a career fair, so we have access to professional attire if that's something you'd be interested in. So just a reminder that you have these opportunities available just by being a student here.
Are those employers based in Sterling?
Yeah. Oh yeah. These would be local employers. Yeah.
Some of them are national companies, but yes, local employers.
Well, this is the temporary.
Some of the Tech Garden, yeah, but Tech Garden is owned by Center State, so we've got connections to them through that. But yeah, they're employers from all over. Yeah.
And that's the end of my side. I really wanted to end it there because I think that's really the more important piece is, like I said, as we build this out further, is making sure that you're aware that we have these opportunities, and we see Max and Jesse once a week, at least. So we're in regular communication about these resources. We work closely with Laurel, who'll be working with you. So just wanted to make sure that you're aware of these and that we're here to support you as well. So you have a whole, can't say enough, just in 5 weeks, I just incredible team behind you. So any other questions though, while I'm here?
We're fortunate to have Erie 21 as a partner because the funding for this cohort is coming through the Alliance for Economic Inclusion. That's kind of county level money. But fortunately, Erie 21 team is willing to work with us and provide access to all of the resources for the other half of the year of the cohort that they fund to allow you guys to have access to it all as well. So the nice thing is, regardless of the funding source of why we are able to afford to have you guys in the program, this cohort, Erie 21 has been generous enough to allow you to have access to those resources as well. So it doesn't matter where where that funding is coming from, you get access to all of those same benefits. And that's something that we, obviously want to introduce very early on because like Laura said yesterday, it is careers in code, right? And Lemoyne and the Erie 21 team already have a great network of resources and benefits available to you. So take advantage of them and remember that it's not just, oh, week 24, I'm graduating this week, what do I do now? You have access to this all over the next 6 months and after the program as well. So definitely take advantage of these resources.
And that's something we're continuing to build out opportunities and have more of a set schedule of these career events. So that's something that, across Lock 4 that all programs can plan for, and that you just know, like, okay, there's this networking event coming up. I want to be a part of that, right? And that you're able to take, if you want to work with one of us on any like coaching, or hey, I really want my resume reviewed, or any of these things, you have a whole team that can assist you with that or connect you to the appropriate person or resource.
Is there like a Slack or anything, a community-based thing, so we can keep updated? Like,
We'll be sharing, so like Taylor will email stuff to me and then I will share it out, and same for Laura. So anything that pops up, it will go all into that career coaching channel. Just know that when you guys see, open to Lock 4 students, know that you guys are Lock 4 students.
Anything else?
So we could attend guest speakers
Yes.
before being in the program.
Oh, yeah, so this is where I really like wanted to make sure it was like, this is all of Erie 21 Lock 4, which you all are Lock 4 students because you were part of Careers in Code. So yeah, this is outside, whether you were in the Surge Coding Apprenticeship, Careers in Code, the certificate programs, these opportunities will be open to you. Yeah, and that's what Max is saying. So we're regularly updating, we're on calls. So if I share something with like Max, or he's sharing it out with Laura, he's putting it on the Slack channel so that all of you are aware of what's coming up. And then I'm getting you on to invites of myself, and possibly I think you'll meet Keenan Webb tomorrow from Center State, who's wonderful as well. And we will work together to put on workshops or other types of like readiness events. So you'll have access to that. You'll be notified. Be added to our, whether it's virtual or in person, you'll be added to the invite.
Last cohort, we still are, right, building the boat as it goes, but last cohort, we were still establishing the ties of our partnership. And so a lot of students were like, what's this Surge thing? Is this a hack update thing? And it's like, no, but they're a partner of ours, right? So we want to make it clear literally on day 2 that you are Lock 4 students. You do get access to all of these resources. And so when we share them out and you're like, this is something for Lemoyne, what are you talking about, Max? Like, know that you guys are those Lock 4 students. You do have access to those resources.
Well, I really appreciate you letting me steal some of your orientation week to come in and chat about that. And yeah, we can't stress enough. You are Lock 4 students, and really looking forward to getting to work with you throughout your time in the program and even beyond. So thanks again, Max, for having me, and thank you all. Best of luck with everything.
Yeah.
Will these sites be available so that when we click on that link, we can?
Yes, I will be posting them in the week 1, day 2 outline during break, and so you'll have it by the end of that.
Thank you.
the program is within the business is Surge Coding, right?
No, that is that's the certificate programs in computer science or in cybersecurity.
Would you mind putting me a link to the application?
It will all be, the slides will all be, yeah. Let me switch over here. No.
Various events. But I'll still at least mention that to Amanda.
Do you have 2 extra folders?
I have one with me. I did bring. Good 20 tonight.
We had, yeah. Oh, if you don't mind.
Okay.
We had 20, but one couldn't make it, and we got someone interested who's TAing later on who also wanted one. So I will get that to them tomorrow. Thank you so much for coming in. You're welcome to hang out if you want.
I will.
Can
I say, can I, just because I have an 8-month at home, but can I take you up on your offer for like when you guys get into, I guess I can connect with you and see like when you get more into kind of like the coursework piece of it?
Yeah, so we start coding next week.
Okay.
But I can kind of send you the breakdown of all the modules, and then you can pick whichever one you want to come in for.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
whatever you recommend too, like if there's the best time to.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, I'll be in touch.
Well, thank you so much, Max.
No problem. Thank you for coming in.
Oh, here, I can, do you want me to log out, or did you? want me-
You can, I have to switch back to. Should be able to log out from there. Security matters.
Yes, I know, as we're talking about cybersecurity. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks again.
I'll be in touch about another thing.
Perfect. Is it particularly dark in here, or is it just me?
It is.
Because of this, I think.
Because of.
I think it's just so dark outside.
Yeah, the-
Oh, no. Good.
There we go.
I mean, we're turning you into vampires as coders, but we're not quite there yet, you know? All right, so as always, I am going to pull up the outline at the beginning of class. We're going to do a brief overview of where we are at. So Shantina just already did a brief intro. Do you have anything else that you would like to add as an intro for TAing this week? Yeah, sure. No problem. So Shantina is around as our TA this week. You'll get very used to having a lot of different TAs in. Our TAs are all graduates of our program. That's not something we did intentionally, but it's something that is definitely beneficial because they have gone through this program, right? They know where you are at. But as you need help, like, don't be afraid to raise your hand or get Shantina's attention because the benefit of being in person this week is that she can help you while, you know, I'm still up here teaching, or as I'm running around and trying to help multiple people, Shantina can also help as well. That will continue into the virtual weeks, right? So at the beginning of the week, if you don't know who the TA is, it is on the Google Sheet spreadsheet, but don't be afraid to raise your hand and be like, Max, who's our TA this week? Who am I supposed to get in touch with? And so you'll be able to message them directly in Slack or on Zoom chat. And that can be really beneficial for those virtual classes, right? To be able to shout out your question to them and have the TA interrupt me. Or whatever it is. So the TA position is something that we have heard time and time again from students that is more helpful for the student than it is for the teacher. And that is great for us, right? So definitely lean on your TAs. Oftentimes they will be available for one-on-ones as well. Their link should be in the spreadsheet that is linked in Canvas. If you go over to the modules, and down to these Calendly links, and we have a lot of our TAs available in there, or just shoot them a message on Slack and you can get additional help there, both in class and outside of class as well. Okay, with that said, let's kick off kind of our traditional class flow with a new tradition of stand-up. What did we learn yesterday? You don't have to stand up, so I can give you a little background on why it's called stand up. So it's called stand up because everyone hated these long drawn out status reports, right? Where people were just talking and talking and talking. And so some brilliant person had the idea of, when you're delivering your report, you have to stand up. And because you're standing up and you want to sit down as quickly as possible, you keep your report brief so you can move on to the next one. We won't enforce the stand-up notion of it, but it is meant to kind of be, when you get into the business world, everyone will do their individual stand-up report. But in class, we'll kind of do it in a group setting and do it as a brainstorm. So any ideas, concepts that we learned yesterday, any light bulb moments you had, anything where you found it particularly interesting, anything that you're looking forward to build on today. That's kind of the point of the first question, is to recap. so that we can take the end of class yesterday and kind of seamlessly meld it into the beginning of class today. Go ahead. Oh, yeah,
You want to start?
yeah, go for it.
I did, honestly, I'm gonna tell you, I did love the frameworks and the tools that we did. Just going through the trends and then finding what, because to me, this is all for me. So I don't know what, I didn't know what what was a language, what was the, the back end, front end. So that in particular was very, very helpful in determining, okay, so this is what they're talking about, knowing exactly what anybody else here might know that I don't.
Absolutely. When whenever I get asked, like, do you know a foreign language? I'm like, yes, JavaScript. Fight me, right? Like, I personally, I personally think that learning a programming language is more important than learning a foreign language at this point, right? And obviously that's very dependent on the person, but I'm a strong believer that programming languages are just as hard to learn and have their own syntax and grammar and everything. So I personally say, yes, my foreign language that I know is JavaScript, but I'm glad that the exercise was useful. Anything else from yesterday? Go ahead.
Yeah, I love learning about how many resources we have. Having access to all of the emails, like calendar meetings, so we can schedule meetings. Having Slack just to chat is great, but I finally got into Canvas. So
Yay.
I'm really finding that helpful because it puts it all right in front of me.
Awesome. Yep. Canvas is going to be your go-to resource. During break, I will make sure everyone is in the back channel and make sure everyone is feeling set up. I don't want anyone to leave the door today without feeling completely set up. But we try and get access to all of these resources. And we, in the next couple of days, we're going to talk on, we're going to do a requirements definition exercise tonight. Get your creative juices flowing. We are going to learn a wireframing and mockup tool tomorrow called Figma. And then we will wrap up Thursday on the software development lifecycle and learning all about project management and the different phases of software development. So that's all coming down the pipeline. But getting ahead of myself, what else did we learn yesterday in stand up? Yes.
All of the different programs that are used for the same concept, for the same work, right? So even if you learn one of them that, and you know that they are similar, you could also use the other one and have different options for it.
Absolutely.
One same thing.
Yes, and that's kind of the hopefully lowers the intimidation factor, because you go to a social event. We'll be taking this, I think it's the second Tuesday off of every month to attend Open Hack, which is a meetup for developers, and literally a local company will sponsor like sandwiches, and there will be like beer, and you literally just hang out and talk to other developers, right? And some of these developers have written 2 lines of code in their entire life and are just getting started. And some of these developers have 30 years of industry experience, and they just want to get out of their home office and just hang out and talk to other people about what they build. So some people will bring a project, some people will just show up and ask for help, some people will just be there to hang out. And so that is I will update the schedule to make sure that it's accounted for that. That is an in-person event. It is not a requirement to attend, but we strongly encourage everyone who can make it because socializing as a developer is so important. So when you get out there and you meet someone and they're going to introduce some programming language that you've never heard of before, ask them what it's used for, ask them where they apply that, ask them what they've built with that. And then all of a sudden, by the end of this program, you're going to be able to say, oh, you use Python, that's kind of like JavaScript. What do you build with your Python? Oh, you build backends with Python. That's cool. What framework do you use, right? And you're going to be able to start drawing all of these parallels. So that whole list of 40 different languages or all the different terms that we came up with yesterday, it's really comforting to know that that kind of all boils down into a couple different categories. And once we got them categorized, we can compare them better.
You said this is every Tuesday?
The second Tuesday of every month. But I will definitely be keeping you guys up to date on the scheduling and when that's coming up. Yes.
Could you link the Syracuse IO group as well? Because on that, they have the.
Yes, so I will link to that on this. Syracuse.io is a website run by Mike Vormwald, who also organizes the Open Hack every month. There is a Slack channel in addition to Hack Upstates that you can join. Free to join, just like the Hack Upstate one. And that's a bunch of similar people who attend the meetup will also be in that Slack channel. So that's really cool to see like local conversations happening. It's not super active. You only get a message in there 2 or 3 times a week. But it's a great Slack community to be part of. I am only part of 3 different Slacks. The one that I use at work, the one that I use for Hack Upstate, which is, I guess, also work, and Syracuse IO, and those are the 3 that I am part of. But that's a good website, and there are a bunch of that will link you to the meetups and more information about Open Hack and all of that stuff. Anything else from yesterday that we learned? Yeah, go for it.
We had Laura talk to us about like career service platforms and how
Absolutely. So you will see a lot more of Laura. You'll see a lot more of Jason as well. Jason's our student success coordinator. He's available, you know, you can kind of come to me if you're like, I'm stuck in class, I need help on this assignment. You can go to Jason when you're like, I am falling behind in class and I have no idea why, right? Or I'm really struggling with this personal issue in my life. Can you give me some resources or additional help there? So Jason and Laura are great additions to the program, and definitely do not hesitate to reach out to them. They are available to you for the course of the program and even beyond as well. Anything else that stood out from yesterday? Okay, so moving on to what we're doing today. So we're going to go over our YouTube channel. I'm going to show you the playlist for cohort 4 so that you have that linked, and when new videos are available, you're able to get to them. We're going to talk about imposter syndrome, which I know Laura touched on yesterday, but we're going to just talk about what that is, because just knowing the definition of it is going to help you battle it and conquer it. We're going to go over rubber ducking. It is probably not what you think it is, but we're going to go over that in a second. We're going to go over a phrase that I'm pretty sure I could have trademarked after cohort 1, which is celebrating different errors. And then we're going to go into a visual diagram on different job titles that Christy Pressler put together for us. A great developer who used to be local in the area and is still very much integrated into the community. They are a UI design specialist. I am blanking on what their exact title is, but it is so easy to get lost in this job field, in this job industry with all the different job titles that are out there. So we're going to go into kind of where they cluster and different things that they may be called. Because when you are called a website developer in one company, that may be completely different than what a website developer at another company does. So at least with this visual, we're going to go through and you can kind of see how it all lays out. Finally, I'm going to talk about thinking like an engineer before we get into understanding how many people are involved in a project and talking about blogging, right? So I know this seems like a lot, believe it or not, we're going to get through all of this in like an hour. Then we get into the fun part. So that is going to be using your Mac. We're going to go over little tips and tricks like scrolling, like using virtual desktops, like an application for snapping windows around. We're going to go through all of that. Some of this may be really boring for you. Some of it may be enlightening and you feel like you're fighting your computer a little bit less. So we're going to go through all of those topics. And then we are going to wrap up with a requirements gathering session. So you guys are going to design the touchscreen in a car. But before we get to design it, we need to identify the requirements of what needs to go into that design. So we're going to be doing another group brainstorming exercise towards the end of class of figuring out how we go about starting a project from the very beginning. Shantina, do you remember the car exercise? It is one of my favorites, especially because it's so early on, and lots of different ideas fly during that session. So intro to Figma, we're not going to be able to get to tonight, but that is where we will start tomorrow. Any questions on any of that? Any roadblocks for anyone? Anything that we covered that you would like to go a little bit more in depth into? Anything, any lingering questions? Yes.
So of all the languages we were talking about yesterday.
Yep.
I sat here and I was like, how do you know which one to use?
Yep.
And how different are they? So can you just use, oh, I like this one today, or that one's easier, that one's harder?
Yeah, great question. And great way to segue into yesterday's class as well. So oftentimes as a junior developer, you don't get to make that decision, and that's normally a good thing. Senior developer is going to be responsible for surveying all the different options, coming up with a pros and cons list for all of them, comparing them, maybe doing a project in one of them, really getting to know it before you pick which one you're going to use for your team. So 9 times out of 10, especially for a junior or entry level position, when you get hired, your company is already going to be working in a particular language. And so that tech stack should be on the job description. And if it's not, that would be the first question out of my mouth. Before I even introduce myself, what are you hiring me to do? What's the tech stack? As you get more experience, it becomes easier and easier to learn other languages because you have the concept so solidified that you can take that framework and apply it anywhere. A lot of our graduates from the program come out of this and go right into Python, because Python is known for being a beginner-friendly language and that it's easier to learn and the syntax isn't as hard to memorize. But it is very dependent on where you want your career to go. Some people will come out of this boot camp and say, okay, I hated the backend, I hated the databases, I love making websites, that's what I want to do for a job. Great. You're not going to have a title as a full stack developer, but you can still easily make 6 figures being a front-end developer or designer. And so we'll touch on that in the job titles a little bit more, but oftentimes your employer is going to make that decision for you. With that said, entirely possible to come out of this and say, I want to go do consulting work, or I want to be a contractor, or I want to start my own business. That point, you can't really ask your employer to tell you what language to use because you are your employer. So you take what you've learned from this boot camp and you go out and you try and find clients. And some clients will say, I don't care what you build it in, I just want a website. And you can say, well, I know React and I'm going to learn CSS and HTML, and that's what I'm going to build it in. You will have other clients who say, well, we already have 5 other Angular projects. We want you to use Angular. Are you willing to learn that? At which point you have to kind of take a step back and say, give me a couple days. Let me play around with that. Let me see how easy it is to apply the concepts I learned in the boot camp. And then you can go back to them and say either, no, I'm not comfortable with that. I wouldn't be comfortable taking your money on something that I'm not really comfortable with. You could say, yes, but I'm being honest with you. I don't know this yet. It's going to take me longer to build it out in that. Is that timeline okay for you? And know that you're going to be making less on that job because there is going to be time invested into learning it. Or that's pretty much the only 2 options, right? Yes or no. So you gotta communicate that with them. But you also don't put on the tough guy, I know it all temperament, right? Or it's important to be able to say like, oh, you're asking me to do this in Angular. I've never heard of Angular before. What is Angular? They go, oh, it's a front end framework. And you go, light bulb moment, we're going to learn React. That's a front end framework. Okay, these two are similar. They could also come back to you and say, oh, we want you to use this cybersecurity tool. You're like, oh, I don't know anything about cybersecurity. I'm not qualified to do that. Maybe this isn't the right fit. So the good news is that the community and the work demand will point you in the right direction for language, but just know that by the end of the boot camp, you're going to have the skills you need to do full stack web development. And oftentimes our students learn more about what they don't want to do in this program than what they do want to do. And that's also completely fine. We're only touching on DevOps for 2.5 weeks. We're only touching on databases for 2 weeks. We're only touching on a lot of these different tools for this short amount of time. We are not saying that by the time you get to the end of this boot camp, you're going to be a senior developer and starting your own company and hiring people right out the gate, right? You are coming out of this as an entry-level developer, but you're coming out of this in 6 months, what I wish I got at the end of my 4-year college degree. And that is something that there were just so many tools that I had to learn because the curriculum I was enrolled in didn't teach it. What taught me was getting the job and working at an internship and them telling me what tools they were using. And then it wasn't a problem of, oh, well, can I use this other thing? It was, here is a code base with 20,000 lines of code. It's written in Java. You need to learn Java. Great. Now I'm not questioning anything else. I'm just going to go learn Java because that was a requirement for the job. Yes.
What type of difference they're going to be from the student?
Great question. So in larger companies like Google, Apple, what they call the FANG companies, so Facebook, Alphabet, Apple, Netflix, it's getting so confusing now because all the companies are renaming like Alphabet to Google or Google to Alphabet and now Meta and Facebook. Amazon was another one and then Netflix. Yeah, thank you. Those companies are going to have a career ladder and they're going to have like 8 or 9 steps on their career ladder and they're going to have everything defined out. So it's not just number of years of experience. They will identify like, hey, can you lead a code review session? Can you come in, have 3 or 4 engineers in the room and review someone else's code, make sure it's up to all the quality standards of the company, review it, get them feedback, and then eventually merge that in. You're not going to be doing that on day one at a company unless it's a much smaller company, right? So at those larger companies, there are like 8 different levels. It's not just junior and senior. It's like L1 all the way up to L8. And when you're at an L8 at one of those companies, you are easily pulling in $1 million+ a year. So very few people are at an L8. That is not the case in smaller companies. And I have yet to see that be the case in almost any local Syracuse employer. So that will fall into this kind of junior or senior level range. You can become a senior level developer in 3 to 4 years if you're busting your butt. If you are really trying to climb up the ladder, if you're working collaboratively in a team, if you're not afraid to say, I don't know, but I can go learn, that's what's going to get you up to that senior level. So I do have a blog post on the differences between junior and senior level. Yes.
You have a question in Zoom.
Oh, thank you. That is definitely something that I can link in today's outline if you're interested in reading the differences. The answer as to most questions is it depends. Some people, what I really like about the industry is that the more you invest into it, the quicker you can go. And that's not always the case. In a lot of industries, they'll say, no, you can't get to that title until you have 10 years. And I don't care how hard you're working and how much you're learning and how helpful you're being. It's 10 years of experience. You don't have 10 years, you're not senior. That is not the case in software development. And if you can interview well and you can show that your skills are progressing, it is kind of a natural progression to get up to that senior level as long as the company is structured in a way to help you get there. It's very hard to get to senior level without working in a team. So there's a question, what about the individuals that would like a program like this, but doesn't fit the requirements such as a minority and woman? What would you recommend? I've been asked a couple times already. So we will be using Free Code Camp, parts of Free Code Camp. Free Code Camp is a awesome project-based learning curriculum, which I will touch on in a second. That's part of our outline for tonight. I would also highly recommend and Laura will touch on this, especially in the one-on-ones, of finding a mentor. Learning to program on your own, I'm sure many of you have realized how hard that is, right? Having someone that you can go to when you get stuck and just give you a little push, or someone that you can share what your learning plan is, and say, what do you think of this based off of your industry experience? Do you think I'm learning the right things? That is super, super important. And while a lot of you will kind of unofficially have me as a mentor, because we've got a guided curriculum, you don't always necessarily have that. With that said, one thing that's kind of cool about our program is every cohort is up on YouTube, right? And you can see the improvements that we make to it. And we will also have a more formalized curriculum document available at the beginning of next month that's going to outline everything we're learning and literally break that all down. So these daily outlines that I'm sharing with you guys are all available on the internet to anyone else as well. So while it's much harder to go through the program without actually being in the cohort and being part of the, being able to lean on each other and ask the questions live, that is actually available to the public. What isn't available is like the Zoom link and being able to join in remotely and that kind of stuff. Any other questions for stand up? Normally won't take that long, just so you guys know, it will normally be like 10-15 minutes, but as we're settling into class, obviously important to get questions out and start fostering that community connection. Cool. Okay. Let's jump in at the top here. We did our stand up, the YouTube channel, super easy link. YouTube.com. Ooh, ignore that ugly thing. YouTube.com/hackupstate is our channel. While you are not required to subscribe, it will start prioritizing videos in your feed from Hack Upstate in case you need it at all. Again, hackupstate.com/youtube.com/hackupstate. In every outline, you will notice up here at the top, there will be a link to YouTube and a link to the transcript. So if I go back into Canvas and pop open yesterday's outline, week 1, day 1 outline, you'll see that there is a link to the YouTube and the transcript. And if you pop open the transcript, this is literally everything that was said in class last night. And you can search in here, find the text. And if you click on anything, it should literally start playing at that timestamp.
We have an agreement that you signed.
So this is, I know it looks like a giant block of text, but when you're like trying to find when I started talking about one particular topic, you can hit Command F and like literally just find what you're looking for in there. Back to YouTube. We use a different thumbnail for every cohort so that you can tell them apart. So if we go back a little bit, you can see literally those were all of the classes from cohort 3. The thumbnail for your cohort looks like the first two there. So it will say cohort 4 down at the bottom. It will have the code like week 1, day 1. And then it will also have the name of the class. And then if you pop open any one of these videos and scroll down, you'll see we also have a link to the outline and the transcript available to you here. With all of that said, if you are looking for something to bookmark, if you go to the playlists and pop open CIC-C4, you'll see over here on the right are all of the videos, and they'll all be sorted in order of the class. So I know this seems like a very detailed and depth of YouTube, which I'm sure all of you are somewhat familiar with, but that playlist is available to you there if you would like to bookmark it.
Any questions on YouTube or links or transcripts? Cool. Who would like to take a stab at a definition of imposter syndrome? Doesn't matter. Someone go for it.
It's when you don't believe that you're as qualified for the work that you are qualified for. Through, I don't know, insecurities or also anxieties about what other people are also saying, as well as your own feelings about yourself, I should say.
Yeah. Anyone want to add on that definition?
Pretty much having the feeling that
Oh, yeah.
what you've learned or what you have practiced.
Thank you.
Exactly what you actually know, feeling that, you haven't learned it properly and feeling that, you're gonna fail in front of your peers or other people that have expectations.
Yep. Anyone else? Yeah, go for it.
Feeling like a fraud.
Yeah, right. So I think it's important. Let's break it down. Imposter, right? What is an imposter? An imposter is someone who is somewhere that they shouldn't be and are pretending like they should be there, right? And so while you guys are going through this program, you are going to feel like maybe I wasn't cut out for this. And the reason for that is what you're learning is hard. There's no way around that, right? And so as you're going to go through this, you're going to convince yourself that you're not cut out to do this work. And that's going to be a feeling that you not only have throughout the boot camp, but when you get your first job. I had that hard, my first job. I went in the day one and I, for the first 3 weeks, was like, what life decision did I make wrong? I was like, I thought I wanted to be a programmer, but I can't get any of these features done. I don't understand this code. I don't understand what my boss is asking me to do. And I eventually went back to him and told him I was feeling that way. And he was like, okay, so this is what I asked you to do. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know what that is. And I'm like, this is how I would approach it. And he came back to me and said, oh, well, this is the modern way of calling it, but I learned to code 40 years ago. So we just call it different things. This thing that you were naturally trying to do is the same exact thing that I wanted you to do. We just weren't using the same verbiage, right? So that imposter syndrome is important to recognize and say, all right, I am cut out for this, but what I'm learning is hard. So we need to combat that. And the best way to combat that is be open about it. When you are feeling that way, go vent to your fellow students. I'm currently in the back channel just to make sure everyone can get in there. By the end of class, I will be out of there. So you can vent there, right? You can, don't worry about sounding stupid. Don't worry about, just say, I'm not really getting this. I'm feeling like I'm slipping here. Does anyone else feel this way? Because the problem with imposter syndrome is that you internalize it, right? You don't want to talk about it. And so just knowing that exists, knowing that you may feel this throughout the course of the program is important when you start feeling that way to label it. Normally, society is not a huge fan of labels. This is an important time to use a label. Identify that and say, okay, is this imposter syndrome that I'm feeling? Is this a problem with me falling behind in homeworks? Is this kind of culminating in a way that I'm feeling like I don't fit into this class? Am I feeling like I'm not cut out for this? And sometimes you're not, right? Not everyone is cut out to be a developer. Not everyone can invest the time it takes into this program. And sometimes the program's too fast, or sometimes the learning styles don't match, right? But imposter syndrome, the vast majority of the time, is what you guys are going to be feeling. And it's important to take a moment, label that, and express that. Because when you express it, chances are you will find other students around you who are feeling imposter syndrome, possibly on the exact same thing that you're feeling you're not fitting into. And you realize that everyone has some amount of imposter syndrome going on. The good news is that does lessen over time. You do get to the point where you say, I'm more confident in my skills. I am able to do my job. I've been doing my job for so long. I can communicate with other people. That imposter syndrome does go away over time, but it never fully disappears. There are mornings I wake up that I go, I don't know that I can do my job today. I don't know that I have the skills. And I'm like, I'm up here teaching the whole boot camp, and I'm waking up and still feeling that way some days, right? And I go and I do the work and I just think my way through it, and eventually I get it done. And then I look back at that imposter syndrome and go, how crazy was I? I didn't know how to do that work, but I am not an imposter because I know at least how to get that work started. And when I get that work started, I will be able to get all the way through it. So important to recognize that and share and communicate with your fellow students. Or I know Karen's a big fan of having someone outside the class to be your support network, right? Whether that's a partner or a husband or a friend or whatever it is, talk with them about this program. Make sure they know you're going through it. Lean on people around you in your already existing support network, because even though they aren't technical, or they may not be technical, I should say, they can still appreciate everything that you're investing into this program and be a great support. So it's not just about all the internal resources, it's also about existing external resources as well. Any questions? Okay, I know this stuff is super boring, so I'm going to try and get through this as quickly as possible so we can get to more of the fun hands-on stuff. I promise you, week 2, day 1, we are hitting the code, hitting the ground running, and you guys are going to be like, whoa, 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 where was all that fun stuff during week 1? So it will get more hands-on, and the second half of class definitely will be there as well. But a couple more concepts that I wanted to touch on. Has anyone heard of rubber ducking? Does anyone know what I'm talking about for rubber ducking?
It's not like looking at the accident if you're driving by because you can't.
That's rubber necking. Close. Yeah.
I think I've heard of it.
Okay. Take a stab.
It's celebrating new small wins.
Not quite. That's the next one coming up.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just cheating. I was watching the videos. It's pretty much when you get stuck on a problem, step away, give yourself a breather, get back to it, and see. And usually, what happens, as you said, is you take another look and you realize, oh, this is what got me messed up, and you find it easier as you get when you get back to it, as opposed to being stuck there trying to find the problem.
Exactly. So the story behind rubber ducking is. This engineering manager walks in to the office area. He goes over to one of his employees, and the employee has a rubber duck on his desk. And it's like, what? And so he asked him, he goes, why do you have a rubber duck on your desk? And he goes, oh, that's Rubber Duck Doug. Rubber Duck Doug fixes all of my problems. And the engineering manager's like, you going crazy? Like, do we need to get you some help? What are you talking about? And he said, whenever I get stuck on a problem, I look away from my monitor, I look at the rubber duck, and I talk to the rubber duck of what my issue is. And just the act of not focusing on your computer, getting out of your head and verbalizing what the issue is, being able to actually put words to where you are stuck, most of the time can actually get you unstuck. And while that sounds crazy, you're going to be staring at your code and it's just going to have a red X on it. And you're like, I don't understand why this isn't working. But if you can take a step back and say, what isn't working? Let me verbalize the problem. Oftentimes, just being able to explicitly label and say aloud what the problem is will help you get through the problem. Then you can take it a step further. If that doesn't work, walk away for 5 minutes. You guys, I know it doesn't feel like a lot of time between classes. There's a lot of time between classes, and there's also the weekend homework projects that you're going to be working on, and you just aren't going to know why it's not working. And you're just going to be stuck there, and you're going to stare at that computer for 20 minutes and be stuck at that exact same spot. So rubber duck it, pick an imaginary item on your desk, talk through the problem, say what the problem is. And if you're still stuck on it, actually verbalize it. You can't just mentally think about the problem. You have to do the actual physical act, voice the problem aloud. If you still can't get it working, go for a walk. The human body was not meant to sit down in front of a computer for 8+ hours a day. The human attention span is not built to have thousands and thousands of lines running through your brain and being able to recall all of that. A good developer will recognize when they're stuck on an issue and just get up and walk away from the computer, go get a glass of water, go do a lap around the house, give it some time, because, and I hope everyone shares this in their stand-ups. But when you get to that moment where you're like, I went to bed at 2 a.m., I was sobbing, I think my computer got a little wet, I woke up in the morning and I knew what the issue was. I am not kidding you. Students have told me they have nightmares over their code, but when they wake up in the morning, they know what the solution is. So don't be afraid to recognize when you've been going at this for a while, when you've been mentally burned out, when you're stuck and you just don't think that there's going to be any way forward, go take a break. Rubber Duck Doug can help you verbalize the issue, but rubber ducking only goes so far, and that's when it's important to take a break. With all of that said, I'm going to slide right into celebrating different errors. Does anyone want to take a stab at what they think I mean by this? Yeah.
Celebrating different errors. In my opinion, if an error were to pop up, that means exactly what you have to fix, as opposed to ambiguity and not knowing and having to retest and trial and error and then falling flat on your face and then having to start all over that process over and over again. An error should be celebrated because when an error appears, it tells you exactly what the realm of the issue is.
And to take it a step further from there, you're going to get through that error and there's going to be another error. And you're going to go, okay, I got to go find that. Stop. Celebrate the fact that that first error went away. You got through that error. There are going to be other errors after it. And then all of a sudden there aren't. And what you're trying to do is exactly what you want. And that's the feedback loop. And you go in and you do it all over again. But it's very easy to have 14 different errors on your screen and feel like you're never going to get through them because you don't know how many errors there are total. But when you take those small victories and say, all right, it's a different error, don't go right into solving that error. Take a moment to appreciate that other error I just solved. I just got the better of that error. I am making progress. Let me just celebrate that small victory a little bit and then move on to the next one. It's so easy to just, all right, let's just get through it. Let's get through all the errors. But at a certain point, you're going to burn yourself out because you're not feeling like you're making progress. So that's why we say to celebrate the different errors. Obviously, we celebrate at the end because it's all working. You don't need a reminder to celebrate at the end. You need the reminder of, hey, there's one more thing that I just figured out, that I'm one step closer to it actually all working. So let's celebrate that victory. I know a lot of this sounds like common sense, but we're trying to get you off on the right foot here so that when we hit the ground running with your HTML starting next week, you'll be in a good headspace for getting through all of this. Any questions? Coming up on our 7 o'clock break, which is great because we are almost through all of this stuff. There's not going to be a good way. Let me see if I can get this in full screen better. This is going to be super tiny. I encourage everyone at the beginning of class to pull up the day's outline because oftentimes I'll be putting links in there that you can access as well. I'll also put in the slides from earlier into that link. And I tend to update those outlines pretty frequently. So we talked about stack yesterday. Does anyone want to remind us what a stack is? Yeah.
It's a conglomerate of different languages that speak together in order to create a model.
Yep. So we talked a little bit about front end and back end. And when we use those two together, we get full stack. However, there are two additional layers to that. On the back end side of things, there is what we call DevOps, or developer operations. Somewhat of a newer field. It's been around for 5 to 10 years. Of course, it's always existed. The need for a developer to be able to operationalize their code, to deploy it, to make it actually live on the internet has always existed. But in the past 10-ish years or so, the industry has gotten a lot better at recognizing that that is a job field all on its own. And so what Christy has done is breaking this down for common job titles and kind of how they interrelate, right? So if you're working on the front end, you could have a front end developer, but another company may call that a front end engineer, and another company may call that a UI engineer, right? Those are all similar, they're all interrelated. Every company may say that there are slight differences between them, and at a company the size of Google, they could have all three of those job titles where you actually do something different. So the point of this chart is to recognize that, hey, on the front end, there's also the whole world of visual design and product design. Those may be people that don't write a single line of code, but they are the ones who are deciding the way your software is going to look. Tomorrow, we will be diving into a tool called Figma, where we're able to actually start visually building our interfaces and what we call wireframing. But there are a lot of different tech titles out there, and hopefully this chart gives you a better idea of, hey, if I'm going through Indeed, right, and I find something that says application developer, I can go back to this chart and say, all right, what do they actually mean by application developer? What category does that fall into? And then also important to recognize all of the tech adjacent business roles, right? So those are your project managers, those are your team or program managers, those are business analysts and Scrum Master. Scrum Masters falls under project management. There's communications, right? And then there are other pieces as well that fall into DevOps, like help desk and IT asset manager. Yes, it is imagine being responsible for keeping track of every computer at Google and knowing what employee has what computer and what accessories they've gotten as well. That is IT asset management. And while that seems like such a small little thing, that can be a job title literally all on its own. So we would be thrilled if you go into any one of these job titles, but hopefully this is a chart that you can get to the end of the program and go, oh, I'm swimming in job titles. Wait, week 1, day 2, Max said something about job titles. Let me go back to those outlines. Let me go find this chart. And hopefully that is helpful for you guys. Any questions on job titles? Yeah.
What is a Scrum Master?
So a Scrum Master it does come from rugby. So Scrum is when I am like Mr. Anti-sports. I know like nothing against sports other than what my father has like indoctrinated into me through football on Sundays. So I'm probably going to butcher this, but the idea of Scrum is that like all of your teammates kind of huddle up together. And it's like the way to kick off the game is by getting the team together and like hyping each other up before the game starts. And so that is what a Scrum Master is they are someone who will literally lead your daily stand-up. So they get the team together, they make sure that everyone can do their daily stand-up, and then they also are going to lead, if they're in an agile team, which Scrum Masters usually are, lead what we call sprint planning. So sprints are something, and we'll be getting into this on Thursday, basically planning out what are we working on in the next 2 weeks, what did we accomplish in the last 2 weeks, what can we commit to, what are our stretch goals for saying if we get all of this done, this is what we would like to work on next, and then also identifying any roadblocks and helping them clear those roadblocks. So a Scrum Master is a specialized version of a project manager that focuses in on the agile methodology of project management, which we'll be getting into on Thursday. Yeah.
Where would tech consultant be compared? Is that a tech adjacent business role?
All of the above.
Oh, okay.
So you could be a tech consultant in not only any one of those colors, but any one of those titles. So you could be a communication specialist tech consultant. You could be a data analyst tech consultant, right? Consultants are usually in the business world, they're thought about a little differently because they're paid differently. So we can thank the IRS for that, right? So I assume for many of you guys, whenever you've worked a job, you get your W-2 at the end of the year. The W-2 says this is what your salary was, this is how much money was taken out for withholding, for Social Security and income tax and all of that stuff. That's what we're getting to. Yeah, you take your W-2, you put it in TurboTax into your Form 1040, you file your taxes and you're done. Some of you guys may have worked as a consultant, which is a 1099. So that's saying, hey, the business has paid you, and whenever you are paid $600 or more, you will get issued a 1099. And that's saying you're not our employee. And there are some surprisingly strong lines between what a W-2 is and what a 1099 is. The main benefit for the company paying you as a 1099 is that they don't have to withhold any income tax for you. They can literally give you the money and they say, that's on you. You got to pay self-employment tax. You know, we're just paying you. We're giving you the money. You're in charge of running your own business. However, because that is so attractive, there are a lot of rules around what you can consider a 1099 versus an employee. So a 1099, you cannot dictate their hours. You are not legally supposed to be able to say, like, we need you in the office from 9 to 5. You can't require them to work out of a specific location. There are rules around issuing them business cards, company email addresses, and company hardware. So you can't just give them a laptop and say, hey, you work for us now.
You can brand their work persona in there.
Correct. And there's a list of, I want to say, like 8 or 9 things that you can't do as someone hiring a 1099. Now, while all of that sounds great to the contractor, the flip side of that is also that they can fire you for any reason at any time, and you have a lot less protection that you would have as a W-2 employee. So they can basically say at any time, we hired you to do this job, you're not doing the job, so get out. Right now, in order for you to be able to pull off that job, you might need to be there 9 to 5. You might need to be there Monday through Friday. You may need to be at a certain location, but they can't technically require you to be there. They can only say, we are hiring you to do this job. And if you get the job done, we don't care how you pull it off. And so that's the differences between 1099 and contracting. Yeah. Any other questions? You can also be, just to clarify on that, you can be a consultant as a W-2. You could work at a large consulting firm like Ernst & Young or Deloitte or any of those. You are a W-2 on their payroll, and then Deloitte is who gets 1099 from the company. Yes. Yeah.
Question about the layout
Mhm.
of this interactive. The arrows in between some of the titles, does that mean like there is like overlap or just
Yeah, they're kind of like
Data analyst is data miner.
yes.
Different structure.
And there could be minor variances between them, but it could also be, you know, if you're doing a job search and you want to be a data miner, you should also be looking at data developer and data analyst roles, because other companies may call data miner those roles, or they may actually be separate roles, but close enough to what you want to be doing that, you know, you would be fine in that job title. So like cybersecurity analyst is the most broad, right? A cybersecurity analyst could be working on mobile app, could be working on APIs, could be working on making sure that employees' computers are secure, all of that kind of stuff. On the IT security specialist side, that would be more in like, what are our employees doing? Are their laptops we're giving them secure? It's kind of, yeah, they're AKA, but they can specialize based off of what's in the title. Any other questions? Cool. We are at 7:03. Let's take a break. We will be back at 7:25. Before you go on break, though, pop open Slack and make sure that you are part of the CIC Student C4 channel, the CIC Students C4 live stream, and the Students Only channel. If you are not part of those three or have not made your way into Canvas yet, come up to me or raise your hand and I will come to you and make sure that you get into them. Otherwise, you're free to go on break, be back at, let's say 7:30. Yes, 25 minutes. Yes.
How do I find when I schedule the meeting? I thought I was just gonna go into the calendar.
You should have gotten an email confirmation. Yeah, from Calendly, and then that in the email, it will have like add to my calendar, and that's how you can get it into your calendar. Yeah.
I'm not part of the CICC board. I've seen it. but
Okay.
I don't-
So let me get you in there.
Like, I'm not part of any channels. Like I see all other channels. but I'm not part of any.
These are
Okay, nice to meet you.
hidden,
You're Zona. Zona, Champagne. Nice to meet you.
they're locked, so like
So you were with.
you can't get into them unless someone adds you to them.
Okay, cool.
So they should be popping up right now.
Okay. Do I have to do anything or no?
Nope, now that you're part of them, you can use them. And I just put you in the students only channel as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so you should be all set. And then the students only channel, I'll be leaving at the end of tonight. So that's kind of like your venting space and,
Okay.
you know,
All right. Thank you.
no problem. And you're into Canvas, okay?
Yes.
Cool.
Well, nice to meet you. Yes, I do. So there's a quiz, that was due on the 22nd of September. I just wanted to make sure that I don't know if I have access, if I'm the only one that has access to that. Yeah.
Whoops. That is due the,
I was like, oh my God, did I miss it?
no, you most certainly did not. That was supposed to be the 29th
Okay, cool.
because you don't even.
I thought there was, yeah.
Oh, you know what? It's the weekend homework assignment that I
Ah,
locked.
Gotcha.
Um,
Okay.
so thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I didn't want to interrupt you during class to bring it up, but.
So quizzes will always be due the Thursday before class.
And when will they be available?
Usually the first of the week.
Okay, the
But
first Monday.
the
the
first
Monday.
Monday, but
Okay.
you won't, we'll be covering a lot of that material in class.
Mhm.
So you probably won't want to take the quiz until like Wednesday after class.
Okay.
But let me make a note of that, talk about after break.
Okay.
Because I don't want you guys to think like they're labeled as essay questions, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
a sentence or two for each question is all you have to put in.
Okay. Perfect. And
Uh,
I wanted to tell you, I do like the readings
Also,
the week prior. I think that's a very, very. like,
we
a
will
very
have
good
those
idea.
loaded up,
The more information you pile on,
on
the better.
Thursday.
Okay.
And I'm gonna try and start labeling them as well, so like you get a better idea of like, this one's totally optional, or
Okay.
like, you know, this is better for concept learners, or this is better
Right.
for visual learners,
Okay.
or, but yes, that was feedback that we got from Shantina's cohort of, just, there's so much to learn.
I loved it. I do like it a lot.
Yes, Yep.
It would, just a feedback as well, just if you do put in readings, kind of like put in with the dates that we might be doing it for the class, like
Yeah.
Monday, Tuesday kind of thing. Just an idea. Nothing set in stone.
Yeah, I'll have to think about that one because a lot of it is. Some of the readings are broken up of like this concept we're learning while we're
Mhm.
working on this project, which
Right.
will be on this day.
Gotcha.
Other ones will be like
Free flowing.
free flowing, like, oh, we're practicing these concepts all week. And
Gotcha.
so some of the readings are like so broad or will take like 15 or to 20 minutes to read that I'm
Right.
not going to push like multiple of them on you.
Gotcha.
But the pre-reading is still very much a new concept and something that we're
Okay.
trying to like be one step ahead of. on
Yeah,
the weeks.
absolutely. No, that does help.
Yeah.
Because it gives you it gives, at least me, it gave me an idea of, okay, this is what we're gonna be talking about in class. So
Yes, yes,
it
awesome.
eases my imposter syndrome.
that's the goal.
Thank you.
Hey.
The Zoom link, is it the same as the last?
Oh, no, it is not. Let me share that in the instructor channel.
Okay.
So I did not even think about people not having access to that. Are you in,
I'm not an instructor, but I wasn't able to pull it up, but.
let me, where is it? People, let me add you to Canvas so that you get access to all of this stuff as well.
Okay. that
Go
was
ahead
nice.
and put in whatever email you would like. I'm gonna make a note to myself to make sure I have access to Trello. No, it's not in here. I'm gonna make a note to myself that all the TAs get added to.
C4.
Yes. Thing about Trello is you can assign someone else to the task.
That's true. For attendance, so did you do attendance today, or is that something? you
I
want to
did
do?
not, although I counted and everyone is here.
Okay,
Where did,
so normally would I do that in writing Canvas or?
okay. So I'm going to shift some things around in the schedule here, just so we've got plenty of time to get to the requirements gathering. We'll push MAC 101 off until tomorrow. Two things I want to touch on, and then we can dive into the requirements gathering. There was a incorrect quiz date on Canvas. I didn't want anyone to panic. I just had the due date set wrong. So quizzes will always be due 5:30 on Thursday. And if it is a like fill in the blank question, they may say that it's an essay question. I do not want you to write an essay. These are like 1 to 3 sentence answers for them, right? So we'll go through, we'll grade them over the weekend and then get you the feedback on them just so you know that you were on the right track. Some quizzes will be more multiple choice oriented. Some quizzes will be more like 1 to 3 sentences, fill in the blank kind of thing. But those are due Thursday at 5:30 in Canvas. You may want to wait until after Wednesday's night's class because there will be questions that we cover throughout the week that you won't know the answer to. But the quizzes are meant to be like no more than 10 minutes to go through them. And if you miss the due date and end up taking them on Friday or Saturday, that's also completely fine. The reason we set that Thursday due date is that if we go through and we find that there are like a bunch of students that got a question wrong, that may be something that we need to revisit on Thursday. So that's why we have it set up there. Homework projects will go live by Thursday's class so that when we end class, you can review the homework, make sure that you understand it all. That will be all the homeworks will be based off of the concepts that we learned during class. The homework for this weekend will be to build a portfolio page mock-up or wireframe. Obviously, you have no idea how to create a mock-up or a wireframe right now. So do not panic that when you go in and you see those homework assignments and you're like, oh my God, I have no idea how to actually do that. chances are we're covering it, you know, Wednesday or Thursday, and it will be more apparent then. So that's coming your way in Canvas. Any questions about those two? Yeah.
Homework is due on Sunday night?
Homework is due Sunday at 11:59, but we tend to view due dates very loosely here. So if you're like really close and you're like, man, I just want another 2 hours on this, like you're another hour, you know, and you're past the due date, there is absolutely no penalty for being late on an assignment. Once you turn it in, we grade it just like any other assignment, and you will get credit for it just like any other assignment as well. And reminder that it is on a 1, 2, and 3 grading scale, where 2 is meeting expectations. So if you got a 2 on the assignment, you don't need to worry. You did it great, you're on track, you're good to go. And don't panic when you see like you have a 66% grade. A 66% grade means you're doing fine and you're on track. Okay. One last thing that I want to touch on before we go into the requirements planning exercise is thinking like an engineer. And I linked to a Medium post here. I think I also linked to that in the readings in Canvas. The readings are always optional, and we'll have them up the week before class starts as well. So you've got the weekend to go through them if you would like to. But we teach with a project-based hands-on learning approach, right? And what that means is you still need to extract the concepts. What we're going to do is go through and show you how to build something like this. But it's important at the end of the project or while you're in class to make sure that you are understanding the concepts and the steps that we're taking, because it is way more important that you come out of this class thinking like an engineer than it is for you to come out of this class and say, I know JavaScript. Thinking like an engineer is a very hard thing to train on. And that's why we use projects to get you to think like that engineer. But at the end of the project, when you get it all working, don't think you're done with that project, right? You aren't done with the project until you can go back and say, I could do this project on my own. If I started from scratch, if I started from square one, could I go through and complete this project? And am I able to look at this project and say, I learned X, Y, and Z concepts? That's what's important. The homework pre-reading will expose you to the concepts. The projects will get you thinking like an engineer because we're going to be building things. But it is very important to realize that that is not the final step. The final step is squeezing that knowledge out of it, making sure that you've got the thought process down of how are we thinking about going about building this project. Any questions on that? Cool. All right. We are about to launch into chaos. I'm going to give you a very brief project description, and you guys need to think about everything that project needs to do inside of it. I realize that this text may be a little small. I can't blow it up too much more because we can't fit a ton onto the screen. So this is linked in Canvas. If you go to the week 1, day 2 outline, this is linked down at the bottom for car project requirements. So if you want to pull it up yourself, I don't think you have edit access, but you will be able to view it. So if it's easier to view it on your screen and scroll around and all that kind of stuff, you are more than welcome to. Okay. We imagine a eccentric car CEO comes to you and says, I would like you to design a touchscreen for a car. Yes. What kind of features?
Cognitive, like touch, be able to touch the screen, be able to interact with the screen.
Yeah, so not necessarily, you don't have to think at like the hardware level, think about the software level, right? So this CEO is coming to you and he wants you to design what goes on the screen. Yes.
Icons.
Icons. Give me an idea of icons. What kind of icons do we need?
Now, like navigation, audio, telephone, contact.
Like the screen itself.
So we're more on the right track here of what are the things that that screen needs to be able to show or display in order for the user to be able to still use the car.
How about safety?
Safety information. Elaborate on graphics for me.
Like how it would display it, like how it itself would be displayed, like whether or not, I don't know, like just the aesthetic of it, like the overall.
No way. Oh, there's no. Maintenance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Someone said engine light. So like,
Like, for like the auditor and the range and stuff like that, is it? like
Yeah.
color?
well, that's a great question. So
Because it could be for the main components and it could be just for the audio.
we're gonna assume that everything has to go into the center screen. We're gonna assume that there is no gauge cluster. So
Android Auto. I'm pressure.
someone said music. Well, we've got Bluetooth and audio. So I hope that covers it, but we'll add it on there. What else?
Upward, like the feed spot, in which we like,
Visibility feature.
Such as,
Well, I mean, I don't know, I haven't known the like.
visual.
Yeah, like voice and visual aids.
That is for disabled.
Yeah, like.
How about, driver settings?
With like, star, be under safety.
Navigation or not. Is this like a self-driving car, or is it like a Tesla, or is this just a regular?
backup cam.
That's not driving.
We'll say cruise control driver assistance.
Mirrors, because it allows you to, some of them allow you to change the mirror settings.
Mhm.
Engine form.
Child safety locks
Fuel efficiency. Oh, you're.
and. Child safety alerts if they're being checked.
I think we've got climate. Temperature, climate.
Seat settings themselves, like seat warmers and seat position.
We'll assume that that's controlled by like the buttons on the seats. But good question.
Automatic. Automatic door opening and closing.
We'll assume that that isn't part or built into the car.
Okay. How about, weather information?
Weather information.
And discussion.
What? This is hard to do.
What mode?
Fuel cap, airbag information. Christina sent a couple things. Okay. Such as,
Well, each manufacturer has their own like app, specific for that thing. Like Mazda has a line connect, like she has to connect.
Oh, so like, mobile app connection?
Yeah, basically, yes.
Okay.
Specific for their company.
Yes, yeah.
Network setting.
Anything else? Pretty good
Do they
list.
need, like, Wi-Fi or something? Be able to connect?
Yeah. Did you put like ABS on there, like the braking system? Is that?
Or,
Yep. Well, not spelled right, but we have it.
Driving mode, driving, yeah. You do all that, really.
Anything else?
Ambient lighting.
We'll assume that we can't do like third-party apps. Anything else? Okay, so got all of this going on. This is a list of, I don't even know how many different things. What would be the next step before we actually start designing this interface? How do we take all of this information and start to organize it in a way that we can start thinking about the different sections of the screen? We got to come up with our categories, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to open up just a new spreadsheet, and I'll add this to the list. This is really going to push me for screen size, but we'll give it a try. Okay, so just like when we went through full stack and we identified each of the categories of, hey, is this a front end, a back end, an operating system, all of that, we need to identify the categories. So when we go through this brainstorming list, we're going to identify, is this a category on its own? Does this have enough features into it? Do we have to think through this kind of as a separate app or an entire separate section of the screen? And if we do, it becomes its own category. But if it can kind of get grouped into another section of the screen, if it makes sense that all of these fall under one category, then we move it into that categorization. So we're going to start with navigation and maps. Do we think that that's a big enough thing to be its own category?
Yes.
Okay. So we're just going to say navigation. Audio.
Yeah.
Telephone. Well, good question. Bluetooth. That can go under audio, but could also go under telephone.
And network.
And settings and all of that. So where do we want Bluetooth to go?
or,
It traditionally is its own category.
So we have to identify, let's break this down into two different parts. When you get into a car, right, you interact with Bluetooth in a lot of different ways. So what we should do is we should break this down into there's Bluetooth connection to establish that you're using the phone. Then there's Bluetooth audio for music. And then there's also Bluetooth for phone calls. That can kind of go in Bluetooth connection, kind of roll it up in there. Okay, so now that we've got those three broken out, it's much easier to say, oh, the Bluetooth, this is, I'm just going to say BT music, then this is BT for phone, and then now we have another one that's Bluetooth connection. Where does that fall under? That can probably go under settings, right? Because the connection itself is going to control both the music and the phone once it is already connected in. Okay, music. Hopefully we can put that under audio. Contacts. Temperature and climate. Now, think about your cars. When you adjust your climate, do you go to settings?
No, it's its own category.
Own category. Interesting. Settings, we already have safety information. Now that to me is kind of important enough that we almost need a car status section that we can put a couple other things under. So let's start with a car status. And we can put safety information in there. Okay, and just like we had concepts in our full stack list, same for UI design aesthetic. Okay, that might be a task that we want to go back in or think about as part of the design process, but that isn't something that is necessarily a requirement, right? The requirement is there's some UI that we've got to design, and the following requirement could be, and it's got to be pretty or it's got to be functional, but it's not necessarily a feature that we need to put into the requirements spec.
Certainly not something interactive.
Correct, yeah. Now you could say something like enabling dark mode or light mode, or, you know, that kind of falls into it, but maintenance information. Oh, I did spell that right. Fuel gauge goes under car. Clock, I think we can put that under car status, right? That's kind of a persistent, always on information. Speed, certainly.
Tire pressure, information.
Air pressure. So now we get into some interesting areas. So Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, that's kind of a it's like kind of in settings because you got to set it up, but at the same time it kind of like overrides everything on the screen, right? So maybe that's its own category because they control a lot of the user interface, but for the sake of this exercise, let's just say it's a car that doesn't support it, just so it's a little bit easier. Okay, voice commands. That kind of goes under telephone. Maybe it impacts, you know, the navigation system and other stuff there, but I think that that can kind of cluster there. Settings for disabled. I feel like I'm missing a word there. Anyone remember what that one was? Settings. Okay, yeah, we'll just cluster that together. Cruise control and driver assist. Then we can say backup camera can cluster there. Mirrors.
Yeah.
I think that's more settings, right? Because we want to adjust the mirrors. We go into our settings. Engine performance is going to go under child safety locks. I think we can put under settings. Well, at least the locks, the alerts would go under seat belts, go to car status. Same for door open status. Weather information, airbag information. I think the mobile app connection, we can go under settings, and same for network settings, ABS status, driving modes. I guess status, this goes to here. Driving modes is probably more of a settings thing. Ambient lighting, also probably a settings thing. Entertainment. What are you thinking about entertainment?
People just straight up watch TV and that.
Do you think like DVD and navigation like inside of it?
Could be, could be.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it could be, you could have Netflix and, you know, support some streaming services or, so let's just cluster that for now under audio. Just so, you know, that's kind of all clustered together of like, all right, I'm playing my music and if I want to switch to Netflix to watch something, I can, you know, go in there and get from there. Okay, and then headlights. I think that's car status, yeah. Okay, so after that exercise, we've now taken however many things were on the list and broke it down into 6 categories, right? From these 6 categories, do you feel that you could go out there, design the entire user interface, come back to the client and say, here you go, is this everything that you wanted? No. So what are we missing here? Because I think car status, we've got a really good running list, right? We've got an idea of, all right, there are a lot of different things that need to show up to report out the car status. But I think there are some things in here that we need to break down even further. So navigation, really easy thing to say, hey, I'm going to just put in GPS. But let's think through what are all the different things that we would need to add to the GPS screen to make that show up. There's a lot going on there. So what we're going to do is break out into groups and assign you guys a specific category to think through. And your job is to come up with all the different items that need to show up on that screen. So navigation will be one, climate will be another, settings will be a third. So you guys are gonna break out into groups, let's say groups of, hold on, let me see how many groups I need, and then I can tell you group size. Okay, so we need 5 groups and there are 18 of you in person tonight. So group sizes of 3 to 4 people. So if you guys want to break out whatever groups you're in, we need 5 groups total, 3 to 4 people each. If you want to like push tables together and cluster, and then we can go from there. Okay, we are groups. I only have 5 categories for you guys. Do you guys mind heading over there and joining that group? Either in the back corner or this group, doesn't really matter. 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, 5. Okay, so your options are going to be Okay, so the categories that your options are controls, persistent status, music, climate control, and maps and GPS. We're gonna start at the front group. Which one would you guys like?
Really fun. Good math, fine.
Apps and GPS. Off the list. Okay. Going back a group. Maps and GPS is taken. Anything indented is taken. Music? You got it. Back group. Which group would you like? Controls, persistent status, or climate control? All right. Going round. Controls. All right. And finally, we've got climate control for you guys. So make sure you guys learn everyone's names, because we'll be working in these groups tomorrow as well, using Figma to design the interface. But your job in the next 15 to 20 minutes is to come up with a list of all the different things that you may need to make that section feature. And when you have them done, one of you guys can post them in the live stream channel with your whatever group you got assigned, and then just a bullet point list of all the things that you guys need to think through for the requirements. When questions come up, and they will come up, just raise your hand and I will float around to the different groups and answer the questions as the car CEO. Yep. What? The assignment is to think through that category that you got and think through all the different items that need to show up on the screen. So your group is what? Music. Okay, so very basic, right? We got to start with a play and a pause button. If I'm playing music, okay, but what else goes into music? I need to be able to skip it. I need to know what the current song is. I need, maybe to fast forward, right, or slide, right? Maybe I have to be able to pick what music I'm listening to. What are my different sources, AM, FM, all of that kind of stuff. That's what you want to start brainstorming. Yeah.
We have controls that are all kind of, you don't really understand what type of controls. Do we put like what would we probably categorize?
Yeah, I'll come over to you guys.
Yeah, I have a broad.
Yeah.
Tell you what his brain. Well, I'm just trying
I need
Yes.
I didn't search for it.
So I just, in the Slack live stream channel, I put this spreadsheet that we were working on, and then also the groups up on there, so you guys can know. If you're working on like the control section, you don't need to worry about the music app, right? So all that posted for you guys, so you have access.
Well, like that, what we did that.
Going really well.
Some parts, so don't necessarily have to do on site. You don't have to do like, you can go to set up the view. You don't have to. You know, this is literally not. If you want to do that, you have to or you finish, yeah, they've got it on the wheel, but they're also probably have all this. Have to do one of those guys, right? But then you're or maybe, you know, like this, the speakers are coming out, right? So that you guys decide if that's something that we can stop in or decide, or if that's something that we need for all the inside.
That would be great.
Any questions?
For the speed limit that's rented. Yellow.
Yeah, on the live streaming file, I link this to the document that I can also read. And I will read it. In there, that you can know, you know, you don't have to worry about it. Reading.
Uploading the.
Yeah.
Something like it, you just didn't.
Yeah.
Basically, it's weird.
That's why it's like.
Now. Wow. Yep. Sounds like you got your list together. There will be things that when you get into tomorrow, we realize like, crap, I forgot like an all off button or, you know, something like that. So that's what we'll get into tomorrow. Oh, yeah. Alright, we'll add it so that you can get to it. You are, I need you favorite button.
And the scrubbing, yeah, can help you out the experience that.
So we're gonna start with on and on or button.
So when you guys are feeling like you're starting to come up with your finalized list, head over to the live stream channel and Slack. Only one person per group has to do it. And just put the name of your category at the top and a colon, and then just list out all the different things that you identify. And once you post that Slack, you are done for the evening and can head out. Like whatever the name of your group is.
Right.
I'm not rushing you out here, take your time, you got another 15 minutes, but if you're done and you feel like you covered it all, you're welcome to head out. You get that photo stop. I don't want to, I am notorious for like, at the end of the class, you're like, I raging and exploding, don't work fast. So that's the important one that I want to make cool. That is a, like, I've done this enough where I'm like, I need my 7 o'clock break, let alone all of you who need something like. I do some of them in and then when you come back, you're like, I don't have another coverage. It works. We had, so you ever talk about, then you had, one come in, the person I called that they were based in a row. We had to know about the radio. And then really cold to again the instructor. It was like, it's 7:15. It's like, and like, be the break. We never, but it's so funny how
Since 8 o'clock.
Right.
Yeah.
To find a way to get. People be able to sit in my car and play around with it without having like 20 people. So in my car. Maybe I'll record like a little video, of, like what it's actually like. But I wanted to do that at the end, like, or 30 like, oh. That's the fun part, right? It's like seeing like, this is how it actually works, this is how it's all. But I just love this exercise. It's like, oh, yes, just think it and break it down and all that kind of stuff. Doing enough, like, watch the whole thing on the whole team, because you have to think about the other teams and how do you get to that.
Yeah.
There are a couple boxes left. Stop the.